Self-gaslighting, toxic positivity, spiritual bypass. These are all things that sort of hold a fawn response intact, that basically say, you shouldn't feel that, you're not allowed to feel that, don't go there, it isn't spiritual.
You ever caught yourself saying yes when every part of you in your body wanted to say no? You ever have a moment where you actually smiled through discomfort because that actually felt safer than speaking your truth? Hey, look, that's not just people pleasing, that is survival. Psychologist and author Dr. Ingrid Clayton calls it the fawn response. This is a trauma pattern where our body learns how to stay small, be agreeable with others, but actually be hyper aware of your environment. And why does it happen? Because in your life, at some point, standing up for yourself did not feel safe. And the problem is, what protected you as a child became the very thing that keeps you invisible as an adult, exhausted, anxious, disconnected from your own needs. And in this episode, Dr. Clayton reveals how fawning is wired into the nervous system. It gets stuck. And the hidden ways that that fawn response actually sabotages love and boundaries, and how to finally break out of that and reclaim your voice. If you ever felt like you're living for everyone but yourself, this conversation is going to be the wake-up call that you've been waiting for. Dr. Ingrid Clayton, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dr. G.
Listen, we go into somatics, nervous system regulation so much on the show, but we haven't gone into fawning, people-pleasing, the emotions. This is a special show for a very special audience who's very educated.
I love that. I'm excited to be here.
I have some rapid fire questions for you. Do you feel ready?
We'll find out.
To get in the hot seat?
We'll see.
All right. What is the difference between being kind and being a fawner or a fawn?
Real kindness includes being kind to yourself. Fawning involves a level of self-abandonment where you don't even get to take into account your larger needs or goals.
I love that.
Yeah.
People who are in fawn, why do we just often gaslight ourselves? No one's gaslighting us as much as we do ourselves. What's driving that?
I think oftentimes fawning stems from childhood trauma. And when you think about, we're relational beings who need our caregivers longer than any other species. You need those caretakers in order to survive. And so it's a reflexive thing that happens in childhood. We kind of can't make our caregivers wholly bad. It must be me, right? I must be doing something wrong. It's this like, if I broke it, I can fix it. And then it stays with us for a long time. But the other thing I'll say is a lot of us have also been gaslit along the way. It's sort of like, you're so sensitive. Stop being so ridiculous. Why can't you just get over it by now? So it's also those internalized messages that we've received over and over again.
Both of them.
Yeah.
What is one of the very first signs of someone in fawn?
That's a good question. I think it depends because fawning is so context dependent. It can look so different depending on the relational need or harm that you're trying to navigate. What are one of the first signs? Is that what you said? Well, this might be tricky because it's not one that you can necessarily see, but it's also because fawning isn't a conscious choice. You're not aware that you're doing it. But essentially, my entire focus is external, right? My safety relies outside of my own body. So there tends to be this hypervigilance. A lot of us are really, used to walking on eggshells and scanning the horizon. This need for external validation tends to be a really common symptom.
Oh, Lord. I'll talk about my own experience with that later. How do we know if we're in a partnership with someone who's living in the fawn response? How do we know if it's just people pleasing and fawn versus real love authentically?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, I think, do you get the sense that your partner could engage in conflict with you, that they're able to disagree? Real relationship, reciprocal relationship tends to involve rupture and repair, rupture and repair. Fawners are like, I cannot handle the rupture. I'm going to run a million circles around it in order to avoid it. So that might be one telltale sign.
And one last question. What's one boundary that can completely change a fawner's life?
I know these are rapid fire, but it brings up so much. So although, yes, I want to talk about boundaries, I guess the thing that actually changes our life before we get to boundaries is we can't move into relational work too soon. We have yet to build an internal sense of safety in our own body, right? Mm-hmm. So the boundary is almost in this way saying, I am going to take this chronic orientation to the external environment, what you need, am I okay, can you validate me? And I'm going to turn that gaze inward and go, what do I notice? What am I experiencing? It's like the boundary is essentially taking up even the teeniest, tiniest space in the world to going like, I exist, I matter. That tends to be the beginning of this work so that we can have enough safety to set an external boundary with others.
Doc, I really appreciate you because, and you're off the hot seat, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I appreciate you because this is so much my experience. So this is going to be a very special show, even for me. And I know a lot of the viewers and listeners. So there's so many nervous system response states. Yeah. Right? Fight or flight. Some people freeze. What drew you into talking about this fawn response so much and dedicating so much of your work and the book now behind this fawn response? Well, largely personal experience that I grew up in a pretty chaotic childhood home. And I feel like I've really spent a lifetime trying to sort of crawl out from under this thing that I couldn't quite understand, and nothing else had ever allowed me to make sense to myself or to find real healing. So, I'm in my 50s now, and I got all the degrees in psychology, and I started a private practice. I've sat on a lot of therapist couches. I've done the retreats and the workshops, right? Like, it's not like I wasn't dedicated. But I think because historically these behaviors have been talked about, whether it's sort of people pleasing or codependency, they've implied conscious agency. They've implied this decision that one makes. And so consequently, the solutions were also behavioral and cognitive in a way where it's like, well, DrG just set a healthy boundary, right? Mm-hmm. Why would you care what anybody thinks about you? They make sense. I wanted to set boundaries. I did not want to care what people thought about me. These things were not available to me. So coming to understand the fawn response and the origins, first of all, physiologically in my nervous system, these things come online in a nanosecond. The body chooses the response that's going to make us most safe in that moment, right? But it also puts these behaviors back in context, right? I am not a dysfunctional person. My body adapted to a dysfunctional environment. And that piece tends to go missing in the longer discourse on these behaviors. It's sort of like just setting a healthy boundary implies these accessible, reciprocal relationships as though we're not residing in a million systems of power and hierarchies, right? Like when my body goes into the world, it knows where I reside in that pecking order. And that's a part of what creates the body's choice for safety. It's a mouthful, but I'll just say too that fawn tends to come online when the rest are either not available or would make it worse. Okay, so in my experience and many of my clients, at one point they may have tried to have a voice, to stand up for themselves and do these things. And guess what? Oh my gosh, now they're steamrolled, right? Or the flight response, where are you going to go as a child, right? These are your caregivers. You're going to be brought right back to the scene of the crime most of the time. So there's a reason that we don't turn to these others, or maybe we have. And then the body goes, oh, I'm never going to do that again. Yeah. And it continues to lean on the one that worked the most, which is how it can become so chronic. Very clear. Okay, you've made it so clear right there. Okay, good. And so then it brings up this question to me. Is fawning more regular of a compensation than all of the other ones? You said like flight, we're not running away from home. Yeah. Fight, we're little, but maybe there is some fight in maybe my brother or my sister. But is fawn the most the most readily available compensation or the most common compensation that children choose?
I think so. I haven't been asked that question so concretely, but certainly with childhood trauma, I got to say yes, right? You're so disempowered. But then again, if you look at all these other systems of power that we're navigating with patriarchy, classism, racism, you kind of can't get away from a hierarchical structure to a degree. And if you are not at the top of the food chain, that presents an opportunity for fawn as your best resource, right? Because there's real consequences for not fawning.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, I think there's also this idea again of, well, why wouldn't you set a healthy boundary? It's like, well, I'm actually orienting towards a need. I'm not thinking that I'm self-abandoning. I'm looking towards the safety that I'm trying to get in the world, right? I'm trying to prolong the good times before it's going to get bad again. That's what we're oriented towards. But then how it's talked about is just like, well, come on, just raise your self-esteem. It's like, this isn't a self-esteem issue, right? I, as a fawner, a lifelong fawner, actually loved myself a whole lot. My body did the only thing it could do in the moment to protect me. That's not a self-esteem problem, So I love how the language of fawning kind of turns some of these ideas on their head, which, the original question, what brought me here? It's like, this is the thing that allowed me to make sense to myself. This is the thing that allowed me to step into actual healing, right? So it's because this conceptualization not only gave me the greatest access to myself, but I've seen it over and over and over again with my clients. Yeah.
It's like an aha moment, really, for many of them.
Completely, yeah.
Can you explain fawning to people viewing and listening who are a little unfamiliar and maybe more familiar with like people pleasing?
Yeah.
What is this whole concept and what's happening in the body?
Well, I think people pleasing is sort of a symptom of the fawn response. So I would say it's just putting fawning as the engine or the heartbeat of people pleasing. But in essence, fawning is a relational trauma response where you either appease or caretake to lessen the relational harm.
That's it.
That's it.
Appease or caretake. So what does that look like in a child who's in an abusive household and is compensating and moving through and living in that household in the fawn response?
Well, I actually, in Fawning, the book, I talk about my personal experience because I happen to have sort of both sides of the equation at the same time. So I'll use my personal experience to outline this. On one side, I had a stepfather who was actively alcoholic and rageful, and I now know he was grooming me. I didn't know it at the time, but I sensed that very real threat. Gaslit myself around that for a long time. That wasn't really what he was doing, Ingrid. That's what he was doing. And so that aspect of the fawn response, it's like he is kind of coming for me, literally closing in on me. And the presentation is like smiling and flattering or even flirting, like reminding the person, I'm a real person here. You remember, there's parts of me that you like, right? It's kind of propping them up. That's what it looks like on that end of the equation. The other side is that my mom, my biological mom, who I, thought was my primary caregiver, she kind of disappeared in my stepdad's shadow when he came into the picture. So she was really absent. And eventually when I tried to ask for help, she said, I don't believe that these things are happening. So in the face of abandonment or neglect, your needs not being met, fawning looks like almost leaning in their direction. Like, I'm going to endow you with resources you don't even have. I'm going to caretake. We're really quick to see the solutions. Like, oh, well, when my mom gets sober, or maybe if she leaves Randy, we think of all of the solutions, and it becomes almost a proxy for real relationship or that person's healing in a way. It becomes a salve in the moment for us to be able to tolerate their absence, because it feels like it's going to change any minute now, right?
Yes.
Like change is coming, help is coming. So the caretaking side looks more like leaning in. The appeasement side is that bit of that performance, right? Like, who do you need me to be? That shape shifting kind of experience.
It resonates so much. You know, I remember me as a kid, I was such a performer to appease my family, to make sure that everyone's laughing.
Oh yeah.
That the environment is okay, and always helping my mom in the house and making sure that I was helping her lift up the groceries. It was just I thought it was, and the thing is, it gets celebrated.
Oh, completely.
And that it gets so convoluted in a child's mind, because I am celebrated for being funny and performing and dancing and singing and being so helpful and hearing all these beautiful words.
Yeah.
But is the truth then, in your experience and in my experience, we were abandoning ourselves? Were we abandoning ourselves? Let me tell you something. You know, on Heal Thyself, I talk a lot about the importance of taking preventative steps to protect your long-term health. That's what it's all about. Prevention, prevention, prevention. And when it comes to overall wellness, few things are as critical as your brain health. Your brain health is something that you want to be sharp until the day you die. Yet, it's something most of us don't talk about or notice until it really starts changing. When our brain is going well, we don't think about the things to keep it going well. We just wait till it starts going downhill. And what I want you to understand is that your brain health today really determines your next few decades. And we're not just talking about memory, focus. Those are really important. We're talking about the ability to stay sharp, energized, present, really in the moments that are going to matter in your life, not only now, but in the future. Partnered with Tonum Health, Tonum, and I want to introduce you to one of their newest innovations. It's Neuro, Nouro. It's a brain supplement that makes a really big difference. It is a brain supplement that is built on 9 years of research with Duke University. You know, I only work with evidence-based supplements here. With Duke University, they have all of this rigorous scientific study, and they've created something that actually works. And what makes Neuro stand out from everything else in the health space is that it supports focus, memory, resiliency, and it's actually protecting against age-related cognitive decline. If you're in your 30s and your 40s, start listening up. We're talking about those neurotransmitters that drive that peak performance when you're at work, or when you're working out, or when you're even present with friends. You want to be able to be at peak performance, staying sharp for decades to come. This formula has one of my favorite supplements for brain, alpha-GPC. It performs acetylcholine production. That's your brain's primary learning and memory neurotransmitter. It has paraxanthine, which provides clean, sustainable mental energy without any of the jitters or the crash like you do with caffeine. So I've been trying it out. I take Neuro about an hour and a half before my podcast recordings. And I don't know, go listen to my podcast. Tell me if I sound sharper. Tell me if I sound more present. I don't know. It seems to be working on me. I feel good. My brain is sharp. My vision is clear. I feel present. I feel really good with it. And I'm having sustained cognitive energy that's carrying me through demanding shows where a lot of talking and a lot of listening and a lot of talking again and researching. It's really important, at least for me, to have my brain operating at my best. And I have a feeling it's the same thing for you. So try Neuro today. You take 10% off with the code Heal Thyself at checkout. That is Nouro, and use the code Heal Thyself for 10% off of your order. Here's something that may hit home for a lot of you. How many of you toss and turn in your sleep? How many of you wake up really easily through the night? How many of you wake up exhausted even after you know you've been in bed and you've slept for 8 hours? I've been there. It's frustrating. Actually, I'm more sensitive of a sleeper, so I'm in there fairly often if I don't do the right things for myself. It's not that my mind won't shut down. I can go to sleep. It's that I wake up easily. But some people, their mind won't shut down. Now, a lot of you rely on melatonin, like many people do. It works, but I've taken it before. It gives me the weirdest dreams. It keeps me super groggy. The next day, I know the morning's harder, sluggish. It's even into the afternoon for me. So I knew I wanted to support my sleep. I know a few of my friends who really benefit from CBD sleep gummies. And I said, let me give it a try. I researched what are the best CBD sleep gummy companies out there. There's not a lot. The gummy industry inherently doesn't really care about creating purified, clean gummies, not like cornbread hemp. Cornbread gummies, the CBD ones, have been a game changer for my nighttime routine. I spoke about this for many months. You might have heard me talk about this before. They have a USDA organic, melatonin-free CBD gummy made in America, which means you get all of the natural sleep support benefits without any of that morning grogginess. And it's real. It's not a fake formulation. You're taking full spectrum, flower only, hemp extract, combined with natural botanicals like valerian root, lavender, and chamomile. These ingredients have been used for centuries. They're evidence-based. They promote relaxation, a restful sleep. And when you combine it with CBD, especially the full spectrum one, your whole system calms down. And I'm talking about within an hour to an hour and a half before bed. You take it 2 hours, you might not make it to the bed. You might fall asleep on the couch. But what happens is your whole nervous system feels really calm. You start getting tired. And if you couple these with blue blockers, you will be out. It's a little, I'm telling you the nighttime hack. You couple it with blue blockers, you eat your gummy. It is incredible. And you're not groggy, you're not sluggish. And it's like your nervous system is really winding down. Cornbread Hemp is one of the few companies that cares about even producing organic gummies. They're vegan, gluten-free. They're made without any sugar coating, clean, natural ingredients that you can pronounce, no synthetic compounds, no questionable additives, pure organic wellness. If you're looking for a way to wind down, one of my favorite ways is to go with the Cornbread Sleep Gummy, the CBD one. Right now, they're offering you 30% off of your first order. Go to cornbreadhemp.com/DRG and use the code DRG at checkout. That is CORNBREADHEMP, hemp.com/DRG. The code is DRG for 30% off.
I mean, I think it's so individual, right? So in your example, I would say, what happened when you weren't being so thoughtful and accommodating and hilarious?
There'd be
right?
fights, there'd be arguments.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the piece that tells me, right, that it wasn't necessarily a choice, or you had conscious agency, or that you were also allowed to kind of like have a hard day or to say, I disagree. It's when we have to perform all the time. That's when this sort of chronic fawning becomes really problematic. And I don't know in your experience, but in mine, because that was the case, right? My sense of safety in the world was being developed while my brain and body were developing in childhood. And it creates this experience where I don't really know where I end and fawning begins, because it's happening all the time. It's like the body's just guarding against potential threat. It's maybe 10 steps ahead. So even when there's no threat to be seen, my body's still surveying the land and noticing the moods and seeing where I can be helpful. And it's at a detriment to real relationship, to authenticity. And that's the rub, right? So part of my work is firstly, honoring the genius origins of the fawn response, and then saying, none of us are meant to live in survival mode all the time, right? Then it becomes maladaptive. And how can we start to restore a sense of autonomy and agency? And it might not be restore, it might be build one from the ground up for the first time ever, right? That's the thing with complex trauma, which is different from acute events. With acute events, there's a before and an after. And with complex trauma, it's like, I don't know any different, right? Isn't this just the way everyone's living? So yeah. Yeah.
So understanding fawning is just this response where we're appeasing. It's really that appeasement energy of just always wanting to please those around us, be super helpful. But for the viewers and listeners to understand, that's just the way that we adapt. That's the way we adapt in order for our own survival.
Yes.
Now, if there's two brothers, one goes into that fawning response, and the other one is really that brother who's rebellious and always screaming and fighting. If we have the same DNA, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Is it just a choice, a conscious choice? Is it a personality response? Is it constitutional? What happens in family systems? And I say that because, and I just want to say this. I went into a household once of an ex-partner, and I understood everything. I never met her mom, but I met her, and it was Mother's Day. And I see her mom, and very frank, blatant narcissist. Like really not. I was like, wow, I can't believe this whole day is about, I mean, it's Mother's Day, but it is only her. Right. And then it's her and her two siblings. And my partner, very clear fawning. She was helping her in the kitchen, taking off her shoes. I was like, why is she taking off her shoes? This is crazy. The brother, fawning too, very comedic, laughing, like always making jokes, but like it's not time. Can I just talk to you without a joke?
Right.
Very anxious. And then the sister was very combative.
Wow.
Her energy was just, she was ready to raise her voice at any point. So there's 3 siblings, same household. Do we understand why that there can be different adaptations for each sibling?
I mean, I think this is a general thing we see all the time. You know, they say even with your siblings, you did not grow up in the same family. And particularly if you're talking about a narcissistic family system, there tends to be the golden child and the scapegoat, right? So they are actually getting different treatment, which breeds a different response. But also you're mentioning personality, right? But I would say the same is true even in my upbringing, right? So I had a very particular set of circumstances as a girl, you know, firstly, but temperament and all kinds of other things. So it just gets complicated. There are layers and layers that determine what sort of a response you might have or not.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about now fawning as we get older.
Yeah.
Because you say it sort of just blends into how we are.
Right.
As you said, where does it start? Where does our authenticity start? Where does it end?
Yeah.
It's just all mixed up together.
Yeah.
So we find a relationship, right? We have our partnerships. How does someone who's in fawning show up in a partnership?
Well, we tend to, like if the relationship is a whole and it's 100%, we tend to have the other person, their needs, their values, their wants, their energy is like 80%. And we figure out how to live in the 20% that's left, right? So it also tends to be whatever your history, your patterning. So for mine, it was twofold, right? It was the appeasement side, but it was also the caretaking side. And so my relationships, not just romantic relationships, but friendships with mentorships, right? They tend to include those 2 flavors that I'd experienced, which was exploitation or like unavailability, just over and over and over. And I was like, why can't I have a healthy relationship to save my life? And again, this idea that my entire sense of safety in the world was built upon these building blocks, exploitation and abandonment. So you go out into the world and it's like, you know, we say this all the time, like, oh, the body leans into what's familiar, which is true. But the specificity for me is that what was familiar was exploitation and neglect. It's like my body goes, I know how to navigate that. It feels almost powerful. That's the other thing. We're not feeling like we're so small and shrinking. We might sometimes, but sometimes fawning feels powerful. It's like you're a monster and I feel like I'm the tamer, right? Even that Beauty and the Beast notion, sometimes it can feel like that. And so often it's these similar dynamics. You know, I talk about it like I was dating the same person, but with a different face over and over and over. That was the through line.
Really resonates because people who are in fawn are out of their power.
That's right.
We feel so. We're small and we're sort of don't feel like we're standing tall in our strength and our power.
That's right.
So those micro moments of caretaking or appeasement where we can calm that unsafe person in our life can kind of feel like, oh, you know, I'm the lion tamer. I feel powerful
Calming
right now.
the one with all the power. I mean, in that moment, in the hierarchy, you're the one who's managing the power. I mean, that's powerful. And it felt that way to me at times, right? And also it's, you know, no wonder that I became a clinical psychologist because my worth and my sense of being seen in the world, my value, my currency was, how can I help you? And almost like get myself out of the way. I was like trained for this job, but it's been important over time for me to, and it's been important for my clients' well-being, for me to access more of myself, be more fully in this, what I feel is a very real relationship in the room with my clients so that I can invite them into real relationship with themselves and with me, right? Also, if I'm a therapist who's conflict avoidant, that's a tricky place to be because that means I'll champion your sadness and your grief. We can hang out there all day long, but like, don't be mad. Don't be too big. It's like that sets off my sense of threat. And I think because a lot of therapists come into this field for reasons like I did, it's important to name that piece of it, that we also need to do our own work in that way, to invite our clients into having a full sense of themselves. Yeah.
Fawners oftentimes will say yes a lot of the time. Yes. Well,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
right?
No is
We'll sort of just, okay. Yeah. Whatever you want. Sure. Yeah. I'll go that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to do. When we say no, it can be very difficult. How do we first start tuning in to what is real and true for us?
Yeah.
After living so long with being like, sure, whatever you want.
Yeah.
How do we tune into our bodies and actually begin to practice that sovereignty with ourselves?
I think it is a practice, so that's the right word to use. And it starts with curiosity of even noticing the pause, or honestly noticing in hindsight, which is where most of us start the work, is we go, oh, I did it again. I fawned again. I didn't bring my full self. Okay, so maybe now after the fact, you're sitting at home and it's safe and you're not even in relationship. You might even go back in time and imagine that moment again. Someone says something and maybe you have a different opinion, or, you'd like to go do something else, whatever it is. See what it feels like in your own body. Like, if I had permission to feel how I really feel, do you see how much I'm having to build out safety in distance from the event and the person, internal safety, like if it were allowed. I'm not saying I'm going to do it any different, but if it were allowed for me to feel a certain way, what might I feel? This starts to reconnect us with our body. And I invite people just to notice, right? So I don't know about you, but every trauma training I've ever been to, somatic training, we don't use the language of, what do you think about that?
Yeah, of course.
It's, what are you noticing right now? What are you experiencing, right? So inviting this lens into relationship with oneself. And quite frankly, oftentimes it's like, I'm numb. I don't notice anything. And rather than going, okay, well, thanks for trying, right? We go, what's it like? Can we just kind of hang out there and notice what it's like to be numb? Is it everywhere at the same rate, or is it where do you notice it, right? Yeah. Does it have a color? So now you're just in relationship in a different way, even to the experience of being numb. The other thing people tend to notice, you had said it earlier, fawners tend to be really anxious. We are so anxious. It's one of the signs and symptoms of fawning, but a lot of us don't know we're anxious, because I know if you're anxious and I know if you're mad and I know what you need, but I do not know that this thing running me all the time is anxiety. So what they initially start to feel when they slow down and check in is anxiety, which is why this work is so hard. Look what we're inviting people into, right? These uncomfortable states that they've been rising over and overriding their whole lives. And yet this is the way in to conscious choice and to autonomy and agency, into flexibility, because I'm always going to fawn. It's not about never fawning anymore. If you have a body, you have the opportunity for all of the trauma responses to come online when we need them. But in order for me not to live there all the time, I need to be oh, that was scary and that was threatening. And oh, look, now I'm not in that situation anymore. This is the piece that's been missing for a lot of us. Yeah. Sort
of that conscious choice. I love that you said, I know if you're anxious.
Yeah.
Because that hypervigilance and sensitivity, I mean, look, viewers and listeners, if you are a fawner, you have fawned, are familiar with fawning, you know that you can sense the temperature of the room. And if it's 1 degree less,
yes,
we can say alarm systems go off.
100%.
I actually think, and I wanted to share this with you.
Yeah.
I actually think I'm so good at somatic work because of this.
It's exactly what I'm saying about me being a therapist.
Yeah.
Most of what I bring to the table as a therapist is a nervous system that is so finely tuned to what you're experiencing that I often know well in advance. And I use that in my work, right? I'll be like, ooh, I'm noticing that my belly's a little unsettled, and I'll know that it's not mine, right? But by naming it as experiencing it in my body, then I can start to wonder, Do you notice anything like that? And the more that I trust that, I mean, I want to say 100% of the time, they're like, oh, yes, that is what I'm experiencing,
Yes.
right? And so that is, in a way, I think, a superpower, a gift of, there are positive things to each of the trauma responses in the healthiest aspect of these life-giving, life-saving, animated responses. Similarly with a healthy fight response, it's like you have a voice, you have agency, you can take up space, but you don't want to be aggressive and violent, right? It's like these things are all on a spectrum, from adaptive to maladaptive, from like superpowers to like, oh God, I can't have a healthy relationship to save my life. So we're taking back all of the pieces along the way so that we can own what worked. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't lose those gifts in the healing. You retain those gifts while you can shed what's keeping you stuck.
That I can attest to.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the work that I've done over the years has been in having a nervous system where first of all, I had to learn how to even ask, what do you want? That was like my first step into this whole thing. You meaning
what do I want?
Me. What do I want? What do I want?
Yeah. Oh boy, that's big. I talk about that.
Oh, I know what everyone else wants.
Yes, yes.
It is that it was such a portal to. I'll share with you. I did a psychedelic journey years ago, and I came out of it, and I had my friend at the time, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to make you dinner," and I said, "Oh, great," because it was my first meal after all this.
Yeah.
And then she goes, okay, what do you want? And I froze and I was still processing during the ceremony, after the ceremony. And I was like, what the hell do I want?
Wow.
And from that day on, I would ask myself, when someone asks me a choice, instead of being like, sure, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. I would take a moment and actually feel, do I actually want to go to that restaurant right now? Let me speak up. But then it was the difficulty speaking what I want.
I know, but these are the micro movements. I'm so glad you brought us back to this, because I think I wanted to speak to that pause to check in, but then I had to back up and go, actually, it's usually in hindsight but after you start to recognize in hindsight, oh, I did it again. One day you're going to be in the moment and you're going to have that gut check of like, it's happening. Someone's asking, what do I want? Right? And can you slow down? And honestly, even if you go, oh, I don't want to do that thing, and you still choose to do it anyway, you're still stretching that muscle. It's foundational to being able to eventually, and listen, this work is kind of slow by design. What we're really talking about is an overwhelm and a hijack of the nervous system. So in order to build this new flexibility, you don't rush in and do it all differently. We don't say, well, go out and just set a boundary with everyone you've never set a boundary with before. What you're going to do is re-traumatize that person, and their body's going to go, see, I told you that doesn't work. I will never do that again. So it's these moments of safety and resilience and coming back to self over time that create long-term major change.
Yeah. I found myself in relationship as a man that in the past, the fawning caused a rift in the relationship, because the person that I would date would want me to make the decisions, would want me to take in that energy, would want me to sort of move forward with assertion. And I did not learn that until well in my 30s, where I was like, oh, wait, what does it feel like to make the decisions? What does it feel like to actually trust that I'm not making the wrong decision? Everything's going to go wrong and everyone's going to be mad at me. Yeah. I mean, and I say this to viewers and listeners, that's exactly it. It is a slow dose over time. Yeah. This was not overnight. It took years, but it's conscious. How do I feel? And coming back, what is true for me? And then can I speak that? And then feel the discomfort of, even when I'm speaking, even if my voice shaked, I would say it, but also being with that discomfort and then moving forward with that. And I love it, because you mentioned it in your book, these steps on how to go through this. Beautiful. The amount of times, and you've probably done it, you go back and you say, oh man, why did I do that? I should have said this. Yeah. We repeat the conversation over and over. Repeating the conversation. Is there a trap as people pleasers or fawners that we can self-gaslight. We can gaslight ourselves. And what does that look like?
I mean, I think I lived there for a long time. And I think particularly trauma survivors fall into this. You know, we want to believe that it wasn't that bad. We want to, I mean, no one comes into my office like thrilled to say, well, yes, I have childhood trauma. They all say, you know what? My family did the best they could. And they were really loving. And they really prop up all that positive stuff first. And I think that's a piece of it, right? And it's what's also true is that is also true. There were positive aspects. We're not sort of pointing the finger and saying everything was shit. That's, you know, it's usually not true for anybody. But I think self-gaslighting, toxic positivity, spiritual bypass, these are all things that sort of hold a fawn response intact, that basically say, you shouldn't feel that. You're not allowed to feel that. Don't go there. It isn't spiritual, right?
Right.
And again, I tried them all. I really did. And at the end of the day, that unprocessed anger was still there, right? I couldn't rise above it. I couldn't pray enough. I couldn't meditate enough. I couldn't do all, you know, forgive enough, accept enough. I mean, I just tried it every which way. And this is what we mean when we say the body keeps the score. I had unprocessed trauma, never metabolized, literally trapped in my body, dictating every single moment of my life. And then you have me over here with these like conscious suggestions of like, well, just, you know, try harder, try to let it go some more. Like, well, you're old enough now. And my body's like, don't care. Don't even speak that language that you're speaking, that rational, you know, English. What's that all about? Right. So that major disconnect. But a lot of us get stuck in that. And it's also just like fawning is applauded and it can look like success. It can look like being a good boy and a good girl and a good employee. These types of platitudes are also held up pretty high. They're good sound bites, right? It's like this idea that, yeah, if we just wrap it up in a big red bow and have a green juice, all will be well in the world. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been looking for that magic wand forever. If you find it, you call me.
I'll let you know, of course. But that's the irony in the nervous system. There's no magic wand.
That's right.
It's your process. It moves with safety. It moves as it feels. It sort of, with safety, processes on its own. And
that's right.
The body doesn't care about all the, like you said, it doesn't care about the English language and all those things. It just wants to feel and move through it. And you mentioned something that I really perked my ears up, is anger. Are all fawners, people pleasers, angry?
Yes.
Okay.
We are angry. We just can't tell you that we're angry. We are angry, but we've been told and we've experienced that our anger gets us nowhere and makes us worse, makes it worse. Why even bother, right? So I think fundamentally the answer is yes. It's just how much access do I even have to my own anger? Then what the heck do I do with it, right? Yeah, anger is a healthy, human, vital, mobilizing feeling. And what a shame it is that a lot of us have been taught, and then with the fawn response, it's like you can't go there because it makes it worse. So it becomes this, it's almost like a whole arm, a whole limb is just no longer available to you, you know? So restoring access to your anger tends to be a really vital part of healing from chronic fawning. Yeah.
That was the biggest break in the iceberg.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah, so there was my belly, anger, and I started actually working with what's present, and there was a lot of energy that was stuck in my belly, a lot of gut issues.
Yep.
And actually, it wouldn't move until I actually was able to access my voice from my belly. Ooh. Which wasn't from my belly. I actually noticed, I remember, and I had a vision, in high school, everyone would be like, huh, what'd you say? Because I was speaking from up here. And I didn't want to really be heard. I didn't want to be heard.
Yes.
So there was so much constriction in my voice, my power, right? The projection. So I always had problems projecting in school. And when that anger cracked open and I was able to use a projective voice, I'll now remember I was sweating. I was dripping. It was like sauna in my bed. It was like 2 a.m. And it was such a beautiful moment because I felt this lightness that I'd never felt in my stomach. And then I went down that portal of, okay, I'm going to visit this part of me that is unexpressed every day.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and move that and use my voice. And what happened was, all of a sudden, my voice got deeper. And I was like, what is happening here? Resonant. And you know, I still, every single day, even amongst that, every day, every morning, I have to remind myself that I have a voice and it can be big and it can be heard. And I'm not afraid to kind of like raise my voice, and not an angry way, but just like I'm joyous or whatever it is. And people can see me and look at me.
To have a voice at all, right? Like I forget where I talk about it, but it's almost like fawners are Pinocchio, right? We sort of don't know where we're attached to all these strings, and healing is like, I'm a real live boy, right? When Pinocchio's made real, it feels like that's a part of what healing is. But the other thing, thank you for sharing that personal experience. It's so powerful. And, you know, before I was a therapist, I was a singer-songwriter. So even growing up in childhood, and I always knew, and I was this little white girl singing the blues, like powerful, big, belting gospel. That was the stuff that I was drawn to. And everyone would say, where does that big voice come from, right? But I could only be that big in the safety of a song.
Yeah.
The second that the song was over, it was like I didn't have access to any of that power. And the interesting thing over time is sort of, you know, I always will love music and sort of be a singer. But the more that I've had a voice in the rest of my life, the less I needed to sort of go perform and have a voice on stage, you know? I can really see that that was the only place I could inhabit it for so long. And so, yeah, this bringing in this sense of having a voice, like you said, not with anger, just having a voice, a resonant voice coming from your belly, like we were trained, you know, in the rest of my life. Like, it's the most delicious thing. Sitting here with you now, being able to talk about things like childhood trauma. And, you know, yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm also still a human being, and this is what it looks like. Like that sense of agency and autonomy and having a voice is so much bigger and better than even whatever I ever experienced on stage.
Well, we have to hear the blues coming out of you at some point soon. It's still in there. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, the Pinocchio picture is so clear for me because it's like more autonomy. I'm a sovereign being, you know, I don't have to have these strings. And when you said about the voice in the singing, I thought about, well, when I performed, I was loud.
Wow.
When I was a kid, it just hit me. When I performed, I had a voice. I was able to sing or be these characters.
Yes.
Even up until my adult life, I would put on skits and shows. And that's when I was able to yell or be dramatic. And it's pretty interesting because after that, you shut down. You know, you're back to be quiet.
And so many of my clients, I mean, partially this is because I live and work in LA, but it is interesting how many fawners in particular found themselves in some level of a performance as a career. It's like, we know how to shapeshift like the best of them. What role do you want me to play? Right. Again, I look at that as another superpower. What a gift. You can really inhabit these other roles and have this diversity of voices. But the real question is, what's it like in the in-between moments in your life, right? And that's where they were missing.
I wonder if that's why many actors outside of cinema, theater, actually have a lot of mental health issues and personal life problems and suicide. I wonder if there's more in there. There's so much pain. But when they put on that, they can actually perform and have a voice and put on the mask and do whatever they need to do. It's just an interesting thing that brought up. I remember when I was in the state of people pleasing, even thinking about a boundary, even saying a boundary was
sweating.
It feels like life threatening in many ways.
That's right.
But why? Why when you are a fawner people pleaser, putting a boundary down, whether it's to your loved one or anyone, seems like I'm going to freeze. I can't do this. This is life-threatening. My hands are sweating. My back is sweating. My feet are sweating. I can't do it.
Because again, for most of us, when we tried, we got burned. And the body remembers, right? So somewhere along the line, even in my own story, there was a time where I had a voice and I asked for help, and I did it in a really big and obvious way. And I was told, I don't believe you, right? My brothers went away, they left and they moved somewhere else. I'm now stuck in this home with the person who was harming me and the one who doesn't believe me. And now I'm getting the silent treatment every single day. Like, at least before with fawning, there were some good moments, right? I was trying to kind of prolong and keep them going. And now I just didn't exist. It was horrifying. And I now know on a visceral level that I wasn't protected or worth protecting, right? So for me, boy, I learned really well. And I swear it's like every single client has a similar tale to tell. Their body learned that speaking up made it worse. Yeah. And so it's really important to name that, because when we're asking people now to set boundaries or have a voice, it sounds so simple and so obvious, but what we're really saying is go walk through that fire. Yeah. Go ahead. Just walk right through. Yeah. It's literally what their body is feeling, that same exact terror. When you say it feels like terror, life or death, I go, yes, that's what it feels like. So if you don't have this sense of internal safety or even the beginnings of starting to build it for yourself, asking people to walk through the fire is absurd, right? Like, they need to have new tools. They need to have more access. Then we can start to dip our toe in and we go, oh, look, it didn't burn me alive, right? And now the body knows. It's not theoretical, it's experiential. The body knows, oh, it didn't burn me alive. And over time, when we start to practice these things, first in safe ways or in safe relationships or even, with therapists or whatever, we start to be able to discern the difference between discomfort and danger, right? But before that, it all just feels like danger. It's life or death, it's terror. So part of the way in is starting to tolerate, even in these little ways, like, ooh, I don't want to go to that restaurant, and I'm going to say it. I hate that restaurant. Y'all love that restaurant. Am I worth us all collectively going somewhere else? It sounds so simple, but it's not. It's major. You're telling your body in that moment, look, it's safe. It's safe to disagree. And then maybe next time the body goes, well, it didn't go so bad before. Maybe I can take another risk, right? And then ultimately, if it does go bad, in some instances, we can go, okay, well, how do I actually feel about that now? Again, we don't just go, oh God, I did the wrong thing. I should have showed up for you. It's like, oh, you can't even show up for me for 5 minutes. Well, that's interesting information. How do I really feel about that? And we return to our body one more time. And we start to get that experience of maybe rupture and repair, or rupture and I'm not going to be the only one repairing this time.
Yeah. Powerful. The fawners.
Yeah.
Do we have a higher proclivity towards addiction?
I think that trauma survivors have a higher proclivity for addiction. And so if you look at fawning being one of the primary responses to relational trauma, it goes hand in hand. Yes. It's how we cope with the overwhelm. If you're talking about all this unmetabolized, fear and anger and rage even, I know for me, alcohol was the only thing that dulled that. Yeah. It was the only thing that turned it off. And I don't remember, forgive me if I had already mentioned this, but sobriety for me then was really foundational to be able to do the rest of this work. And just 2 days ago, I celebrated 30 years in recovery. So it's Congrats. Been a really important piece of like having that foundation of going, okay, I'm not going to use those same old tools to quell the upset. I need to be able to process it and be with it differently.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult if you're actively, whether indulging or partaking in anything that numbs.
Right.
to even have
Because it
access because it really works. It
Yeah.
really, you'll just, oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
Is
No
this what it
problem
feels like?
here. What are you talking about?
No problem. So as we're recovering and really helping feel more safe in our system, what does that authentic expression feel like? What does that embodied, healthy, balanced state look like for a fawner in recovery and really recovered?
I mean, it's interesting that you asked that question right after we talked about the addiction piece, because for me, I think what I was seeking in drugs or alcohol is what I've actually found in my waking life now. Like, not in terms of a high perspective, but in terms of like, this feels so good. It feels so good to be all of me in one place. You know, there was a time when I wrote a memoir on complex trauma before I wrote this latest book, Fawning. And I went on social media, not just as a therapist, but as a trauma therapist who's also got some childhood trauma to unpack, and as the performer, right? The sort of singer-songwriter piece who's a little irreverent and, you know, can do the song and dance thing. And now I'm singing and, you know, even joking about complex trauma in a way that to me, it just made me laugh. I was like, this is so real. It's so funny. But I go, I can't put all of those things out in one place. In other words, I literally cannot be all of me in one place. I have to lead with, no, call me Dr. Ingrid Clayton, right? Or maybe in these other places, I can be a little bit more silly. And so to be all of me in one place was so liberating, so freeing. That's what I mean. It was like the thing that I was seeking in the drugs and alcohol. It's like I have access to all of me. And, you know, we haven't really talked about it, but the other crucial piece of this work is reducing the shame that we've been carrying forever, like layers and layers and layers of shame. And that was terrifying to be like, oh God, you know, if I'm all of me, I really believed it was going to tank my career, first of all. I was like, whatever credibility I have at this point, it's gone. But here's the thing. For me at that point in time on my healing journey, my body was like, well, if you're not meant to be a clinical psychologist, I wonder what's going to happen next. Like, I was really willing to lose anything. And this could make me emotional because it's so true. I was willing to lose anything to be myself, to have me in my own life. And if that meant I couldn't have you in my life, or it means I couldn't be a clinical psychologist anymore, I just didn't care, you know? And yet come to find out, like, it's been transformational. It's been so powerful. It's been an awakening after an awakening of like, it's okay to be me.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's
it's
so
radical.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because that's the decision to lean into all of that unknown.
Yeah.
Will I lose my job? Will I lose my credibility? Will I lose my friendships? Will I lose? Because if I'm me, am I still lovable? Or am I still relatable?
Yes.
That's the scariest part. And I actually believe that is the bane of existence for humanity, is we are so afraid to be us because we don't want to lose the version of us that knows that gets the most amount of love. It's the persona we created. That's
right.
And so like the fact, and I feel your emotion there, because the fact that you were willing to lose it all is actually the bravest thing I think a human can do.
I say it over and over again. This work is the bravest work you will ever do. And every client, they've said it differently, but so similar. They're like, it feels like I'm about to jump off a cliff. And I'm like, well, you kind of are, right? You're leaving every sense of safety that you've ever had up there, and you are diving. But here's where we start to, it's like we're crafting our own safety net on the way down, right? It's sort of like, I am the safety net. I don't have to keep waiting for these broken safety nets to see if they might catch me. Or you notice you can even sprout wings. You're like, who knew, right? I can fly. But you don't discover that. And I want to kind of couch this though in saying, again, this was at the end of a deeper process that I came to this point. It was not the beginning. It tends not to be the beginning for most folks. So no pressure. Don't go diving.
Not just yet.
Just yet.
Just walk to the cliff for a little bit.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe. All right. Last question. For the people pleasers, the fawners out there, what is just one thing you want them all to know right now?
Whew, it's the thing I always say, and that makes me emotional too, which is that you make sense. You make sense right now, engaged in all the people pleasing. You make sense back then when these things came online. You have a body that was hardwired with these operating instructions, and they came online exactly when you needed them without your conscious or expressed consent. And you deserve to have more flexibility and freedom. So it's a yes and, but it's always you make sense.
Where can we read your book? What's the name of it? How do we get our hands on it? We need it now.
We need it now. Oh, I'm so proud of it. And honestly, 7 of my clients gave me their whole story for this book too. So it's a real diversity of experience and what it looked like before, during, and after. So I'm so grateful to them. It's called Fawning. Hard to forget the title. Fawning, Why the Need to Please Makes Us Lose Ourselves and How to Find Our Way Back. And as of last week, it's in bookstores everywhere. It's on Audible if you like a good audiobook. Awesome. I'm narrating, which is fun.
Cool.
And you can also find me at ingridclayton.com, and all my social media and stuff is there too for people that want to kind of join the community aspect of things.
Beautiful.
Substack, Instagram, all those.
Oh, you have
places.
Substack too?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. I love that. Okay. Listen, all of the Fawners, the we're recovering, we're working on it. If you're just starting, it's all there. I want you to go follow Dr. Clayton, Dr. Ingrid, and get her book, read the Substack, and get this process moving. If you feel called to it, look, there's 2 people talking right now who have gone through this process. And still, it's always, we're stepping it. It's ongoing, but we've come to a place, and I want you all to be inspired that is accessible for you. And I always say this, it feels like in your mind and your ego, you're going to die, but your body will never give you more than you can handle. If you're in your body and you honor your body, it will give you exactly the pace that it needs. So trust your body, trust your feeling, trust your sensations. Doc, I want to really thank you for, there's people who come on the show and they talk from an authoritative, I did this research and I did this. But I really love and honor how much you infuse your story.
Oh, thank you.
Authentically, without shame.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the medicine. It is as much as it is the knowledge that you have and wisdom. So I thank you. And as someone who I feel like you're a mirror so much to me, I really appreciate this convo so much.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.